All right. Well, thank you again, Erica, for setting up. We're doing a little power hour. This is our second one of the day, connecting with partners, especially in Seneca and Yates County, but from all over. I'm Jenna Lawson. I'm the Clean Energy Hub Director for the Finger Lakes region. We'll go into a little bit what that means and the difference and the boundary with the Southern Tier, but we're really excited for the opportunity to work closely with the other Clean Energy Hub leaders, especially in all the areas touching our own. So yeah, let's get into our personal introductions and then tell you what the heck we mean when we say clean.
Yes. So Jenna just introduced herself again. She is the Clean Energy Hub Director for the Finger Lakes. Again, as she mentioned, we'll dive deeper into that. Some of you may have worked with me a lot the past 2.25 years, or maybe we worked a little bit with other colleagues of yours, but we welcome everyone. I am Erica Herman, and I'm the former HeatSmart FLX South campaign director, but now we'll be continuing serving some of the communities under the new Southern Tier Hub. So we mentioned some of the topics in the prior emails, but just a quick review. The presentation today will be roughly half an hour. We are recording this for partners who may have missed the opportunity, and we'll do follow-up afterwards with slides, etc. And then the Q&A at the very end, we will stop the recording for so people can put their videos up if they're interested and do a Q&A and meet and greet. But today's main topics again are learning what the hubs are about, what are their goals. We'll be meeting the Finger Lakes Hub team. We just met Jenna. We're going to be meeting more teammates. We'll also be going on a journey of finding out where's the Finger Lakes Hub and HeatSmart FLX South programs at with the transition process. Again, we invite a lot of our partners from Seneca and Yates because those are the main transition areas we're working with, but we know that some of you serve multiple counties as well. We'll be looking at what FLX South is doing currently, and again, the Q&A and meet and greet at the end. So if you need to dash off at the end of the formal presentation, feel free, but we'd love if folks are able to stay for the Q&A and meet and greet to do a bit of sharing. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's kick it off. So the governor officially announced the regional clean energy hubs in December, but our contracts, most of us officially started sometime around September. And there was a competitive application process before then. So I put this in the presentation, which I'm sure we can share out with all of you after the fact. Just in case, like Erica said, you do touch more than one region or counties, and you might have to interface with multiple hubs. So the Climate Solutions Accelerator, which is where I and Brett, who you'll meet later, work, is the main contractor for the Finger Lakes Hub. And then Erica is part of the Southern Tier Hub. And we'll also show you a map that shows you exactly which counties all of those things touch, because I think depending on who and where you are, what you think of as the Finger Lakes or the Southern Tier might be a little bit different. But yeah, there's 12 hubs across the state, 3 in New York City, and these are your partners. You'll notice a very strong Quesnel Cooperative Extension presence across a bunch of different hubs. So just to start out with, for the Finger Lakes Hub, these are kind of our founding subcontractors and partners. These are just the folks who really got in early and submitted letters of support or were willing to contribute in some way. A couple I want to shout out, RG&E and NYSEG. We're really excited to have their consumer advocates participating. We've worked with them in the past on a program called Adder Grants, which was basically a pool of money that were supposed to help low to moderate income families transition to clean energy and replace gas, oil, or propane heating and cooling systems. And we also, as we'll get into the different purposes of the hub, work with partners like Pathstone and Renew that help us braid resources to create comprehensive projects, including with weatherization or health and safety concerns that need to be addressed before energy efficiency work can be done in the home. All right, so again, what the heck does this hub do? There are 7 main purposes of the hub. If you guys are familiar with any of the HeatSmart campaigns, whether it's HeatSmart Finger Lakes South, Finger Lakes North, HeatSmart Monroe, which is what the accelerator ran previously, or HeatSmart Tompkins County, then you may be aware of some of the general initiatives that will be covered under the hub, but we are kind of expanding beyond that. So HeatSmart in and of itself was mostly a clean heating and cooling campaign. The hub is kind of expanded to think about all things clean energy and energy efficiency. So this can also include things like solar panels and electric vehicles, and also things at a bigger scale, like community solar projects, or converting like the Rochester Transit Authority or RTS stations to have more electric buses. So the first two, the increasing awareness and access and uptake of clean energy technologies, it's kind of a continuation of previous what NYSERDA calls clean heating and cooling campaigns. HeatSmart maybe being the most prominent example of those. And then that second feature of advancing our local capacity to engage, especially those who are disproportionately affected by the climate crisis, about clean energy policy, technology, and opportunities, and public participation in energy planning. So just kind of, we're supposed to be a bit of the, by taking the regional approach, making it easier for folks to advocate for themselves, participate in community planning, and think about both how they want to shape policy, how it affects them, and also how they can take advantage of new policies coming into effect, like the Inflation Reduction Act. So then the next and final three purposes of the hub are something that I will speak for myself and not the Southern Tier. I'll let you speak for yourself. We're really trying to grow in supporting career pathways and what our workforce development strategy looks like, especially again for disadvantaged communities. I'll show you a map of what I mean when I say disadvantaged communities, because according to NYSERDA, it does have a legal definition. But yeah, that workforce development, having a just transition to a clean energy economy. And then additionally, things that we've covered a little bit in HeatSmart before, and I know especially a lot of partners that were on the call today help with, is assisting residents accessing wraparound non-NYSERDA services and resources that also increase their participation in clean energy opportunities. So this can be anything from meeting their other needs, whether that might be getting evicted, having utility debt, abating health and safety issues in their homes, thinking about weatherization, other key energy or key home improvements, like needing a totally new roof. So by trying to be like the no wrong door approach to clean energy technology, we're also trying to meet the very real needs that kind of come with that struggle, and understanding that especially in some disadvantaged or underserved communities, energy efficiency can't always be top of mind if they have other needs to meet. So that is our approach to it. We have a lot of building to do. And then, of course, increasing the diversity of participating organizations and firms in the clean energy sector. To me, I'm taking this to mean in addition to that top bullet point on this slide, saying not just the organizations and businesses that are participating in clean energy technology, installation, maintenance, or just generally the green economy. So supporting that pathway for individuals and businesses. So making sure that businesses are hiring more people from those disadvantaged communities, and that businesses who maybe currently operate in a more traditional HVAC capacity have the opportunity to grow. So I think, go
something
ahead.
I want to add really quick, Jenna, because I know someone had a clarification question in the last session, so might have a similar question here. So the hubs are essentially a new iteration program that are across New York State. So there was a lot of overlap in the past with like clean heat and cooling communities via NYSERDA. And again, NYSERDA is the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. So any of the HeatSmart programs, any of the SEEP programs, which stood for Community Energy Engagement Programs, those were all NYSERDA programs as well as the hub. But with the overlap of a lot of the goals of the SEEP and clean heat and cooling campaigns via HeatSmarts, it could cause sometimes confusion, or there are gaps of what was needed missing. So again, as Jenna's been mentioning with the hub, it's kind of more a holistic approach and all encompassing in the new iteration of NYSERDA programs. It's also nice because it means that all the different counties are included and no one's left behind. Sorry, Jen, I just wanted to add that in quick.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, it kind of shows the transition. Yeah, definitely. If people are like, is this not NYSERDA? Is this the first NYSERDA? No, yeah, this is definitely the continued evolution. And just to give a little peek behind the curtain, this is a 4-year pilot that I think all of us who are working on the hubs are hoping will be extended far beyond that. But I'm really excited about like the regional approach to service delivery rather than either being so hyper local that it's hard to get together and advocate for things, or being so like just go through the state website that you start to feel detached and unsupported in the process. So I think at this point we wanted to, based on what we've said about what the hub is doing, we invite you in the chat if you could let us know what your organization does, or maybe even your role is in it, and how that might connect to the hub purpose. So is it the wraparound resources? Is it connecting folks to clean energy technology? Maybe it could be like awareness of clean energy policy opportunities and planning. Maybe you're very interested in workforce development. We're going to save the chat just so that if I say, oh, Amy Kramer was on the call and she's super interested in workforce, sorry, call you out randomly with the first one on my screen. Then I can know what opportunities might be relevant to you in the future as we're looking to continue to engage. So feel free to take a couple minutes. We'll give you a couple minutes of silence to think about your answers, and then you can feel free to keep typing them in as we keep moving on. Don't be shy. No wrong answers.
I know the 2 or 3 p.m. slog. I remember I used to get that in college.
Well, thanks for getting it started, Alex and Eve and Holly. What do you think, Erica? Should we keep it moving while people continue to type?
Sure, if people are comfortable with that, yeah, let's go ahead.
Charging stations, love it. Oh, less, yes. Yeah, I remember looking, because at the time when I was last buying my car, Rochester was super underserved in having electric vehicle chargers, and I was like, oh, if I wanted to buy a car because I rent an apartment and I don't have a driveway, I would have to go sit in the Brighton Public Library for 2 hours every Sunday to charge my car. So moving into the NYSERDA designated disadvantaged communities. So part of what the hubs are tasked to do is make sure that 35 to 40, no, it's not. I really love our public library system. Let me be clear on that. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. So part of what we're tasked to do is make sure that 35% with a goal of 40% of our services are targeted to NYSERDA designated disadvantaged areas. This is an interim map right now, and in the resources tab on the last page, we have a link so that you can see if your community is right now in a designated area as a disadvantaged community. It's a working map. They are hoping, the Environmental Justice Working Group through NYSERDA is hoping to have a final definition of disadvantaged communities by the end of the month. Although apparently there's a legal challenge to that, which I just found out about today. So hopefully that'll go over smoothly. But yeah, so it's kind of written into the code of what we do that we're supposed to be serving communities that have been underserved in the past. But we are taking a broader view of that. In addition to this map, we kind of take the underserved and rural and other hard to reach communities task kind of broadly to include folks who maybe, for example, don't have broadband internet service or are unlikely to be able to connect. Maybe they're elderly and have technological challenges, or anything else that kind of broadens that. I'm from Corfu, which no one's heard of. So then I say I'm from Pembroke, which then no one's heard of, which then I say Batavia, which some people have heard of. And if they don't know that, I say halfway between Rochester and Buffalo. So just rest assured, serving rural communities is very ingrained into what I find very important. So we're looking for ways to really hyper localize and make it specific to the different communities that we are tasked with serving, because it's a huge area and every town and municipality definitely does matter. Anything else you wanted to say about disadvantaged communities?
Do you want to talk very briefly about the geo-eligibility and what that means with disadvantaged communities? Are those two connected, Jenna?
Yeah, so right now, and this is kind of an area that I would encourage maybe some community planning or connection between the hubs. right now, so geo-eligibility applies to a program called Empower, especially in assisted home performance, where folks can get up to $10,000 of energy efficiency work on their homes. Right now in the Finger Lakes region, the only geo-eligible areas are portions of the city of Rochester. And what geo-eligibility means is that you don't need to show your income and prove that you're low to moderate income in order to qualify for the Empower grant every 3 years. So it's a huge advantage, and I've definitely seen folks in the city of Rochester in those areas who kind of know like clockwork that they're going to access the Empower grant every 3 years. But it's not a complete overlap with the NYSERDA designated disadvantaged communities, which I think is a real gap. And I
Oh,
hope,
interesting. And they're slightly separate. Okay, that's
yeah.
helpful.
So, we're tasked with prioritizing these communities, but it's not a one-for-one overlap of saying that we're automatically going to make everybody, for example, in the sections of Warsaw or Geneseo or Canandaigua that are disadvantaged communities geo-eligible for these grants. So it's something I would like to see NYSERDA be pushed to amend in the future. So can we turn it over to you, Brett, to talk a little bit about energy advisement services?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Brett Peters. I'm the commercial energy advisor. I joined the team back in November. And yeah, my commercial designation means that I'm definitely interested in small businesses, nonprofits, commercial buildings, schools, churches, anything non-residential, and helping those buildings improve their energy efficiency and, help them with clean energy adoption for their building. So, in Seneca County, I've been working with City of Geneva for kind of a HeatSmart presentation and Inflation Reduction Act presentation, hopefully in April. I definitely employ the Every County Matters approach as well. Thanks to Erica's help, Seneca and Ontario and Yates have been some of our highest interest rate for local resident in our services, and I would say like 40 or 50% of our energy advisor calls have been with people from those counties. So there's a lot of interest in home improvement and building improvement in those counties. So the main method that we offer is our energy advisor consultations. It's usually just a 30-minute call where a resident or a business owner can book a call with us and just go over what incentives from the state or the government they might qualify for to make these improvements to their building. So we help people get energy audits, improve their weatherization and insulation, and we help them figure out how to pay for air source and ground source heat pump systems, as well as solar. And then we pair them with our partner contractors and connect them with other programs they may be eligible for. We also do presentations, like I mentioned, hopefully presenting with Geneva in April, tabling. So yeah, any applicable events or festivals that you think we would be a good fit at, we'd love to come to your county and table once the weather is a bit better. That's pretty much it, I would say.
Great.
Brett, could you talk just briefly, in case folks have heard of it, of the clean energy communities and climate smart communities designations and how you can potentially help municipalities with that?
Yeah, so New York State offers these clean energy or climate smart community designations. And essentially, if a county registers and starts a campaign, and usually it's if they can get 5 energy audits done for residents and I think 3 heat pump installations done, the county can unlock funding that goes directly to the town budget. So I think it's $5,000 starting out. So definitely recommend counties that haven't registered for the program register, and then we can kind of assist them with the whole campaign and getting the audits and outreach done. So,
and that's a great opportunity. I know we've partnered with the HeatSmart with some of the clean energy communities goals that were similar, and I think there's a little variance amount depending on the size of the community, but I think on average what Brett mentioned is on the whole what's available, which is great.
Awesome. And I guess we can keep it rolling. We'll come back to Brett in a minute. And definitely folks, if you're thinking, oh, I have a person who really needs energy efficiency work done in their home, Brett's your guy on this call, if they're in Seneca or Yates County. So just getting into the year one. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're
Sorry,
right.
I didn't want to miss Bree.
No worries. Yeah, and Bree is our residential energy advisor as well. So she was on this morning's call. Brett is focused on commercial, but they both Brett also covers some residential overflow because they're simply more residential clients than small business clients. But we are tasked with serving all small businesses and residents in our region. So we're definitely trying to prioritize both. So for our year one key activities for the Finger Lakes Hub, just to kind of give you an update of where we are. We started our soft launch of Hub Services, which is mainly focused on energy advisement with Bree and Brett. The governor put out her press release, which again is linked in the last slide that you can read, showing that the whole breakdown of about, I think, $52 million across the state in different areas to kind of hyper localize these incentive programs. We are working on finalizing our subcontract agreements with other partners like Renew and Pathstone, like I said before, that do these holistic wraparound resources services, as well as like outreach partners like Connected Communities and Ibero-American Action League. We're working on, and you're pretty much part of it right now, the transition of HeatSmart campaigns and branding. So HeatSmart is probably like the most name recognizable iteration of a NYSERDA clean heating and cooling program that you might be familiar with. And as we're transitioning to a clean energy hub, and we're trying to really make it clear what our value proposition is. What can we do for the community? What are we looking to grow in? What are our year one and beyond deliverables, especially as we're in this pilot phase? So in the interim, if you are, interfacing with a member of the community and you want to call us HeatSmart, that works great for us. We understand if you send them to our website, if they call Brett up on the phone and said, hey, I heard about HeatSmart, what can you do for me? He will know what they mean. And so we're working on hopefully rebranding that in the whole region, again, to emphasize that we're not just HeatSmart Monroe, or we don't just cover 1 or 2 counties, but we really are trying to serve the 9-county Finger Lakes region equitably. We just underwent a boot camp training for community campaigns, which is a special locked kind of funding that's part of the hubs that we have to apply for in chunks separately, which can help us prioritize either specific technologies and specific municipalities or communities all the way up to the county level. Or we could kind of like cherry pick based on where we have like the partners in energy and where we're wanted and invited and where people are at least curious or very in need of these technologies. So like, for example, if we said we really want to do a community campaign in Seneca Falls to prioritize solar panels or, that, but Penyan and clean heating and cooling. We really want to focus on heat pumps. So it kind of lets us localize and specify based on what communities are interested in, what the need is, if there's a specific town that almost everybody's using oil to heat their homes. So maybe that would be our best use of time. So that's kind of what those are designed for. And we're hoping to design them with the community and really thread the needle based on where there's the biggest need. Because again, we want to serve that broad definition of disadvantaged communities and where we have the partners that we could actually support and do some good outreach with trusted members of those specific communities. In our year one, we have 2 kind of major deliverables to NYSERDA that we'll be working on that you may hear us reach out to you for in the future. One is called the Regional Assets and Barriers Analysis. So this is really taking an asset-based approach rather than what we don't have, a deficit-based approach, to understand our region and but also still being very realistic in addressing the barriers to clean energy adoption in our community. So we're hoping to get the data soon from NYSERDA, not sure exactly when, but they'll essentially give us a big hunk of raw data that speaks to those purposes we discussed earlier about what the hub does. And then we'll kind of fill in the gaps and actually get to the community level to talk to folks about what are the barriers to them actually adopting clean energy technology, so that hopefully we can turn around to NYSERDA and say, if you really want to achieve the goals of the CLCPA, if you really want to make these programs accessible to disadvantaged or disconnected communities, these are the changes that you need to make. And then out of that, creating an outreach and equitable engagement plan that's actually specific and relevant to the individual communities and how they best receive messaging.
Yeah, and the Southern Tier Hub is similarly aligned. We have 8 counties, and we're roughly about on par with these different goals and actions as the Finger Lakes Hub, give or take.
So just to let you know where we've gone before and where we're going next. So Climate Solutions Accelerator, like I said before, we worked primarily in Monroe County in the HeatSmart Monroe campaign. Pathstone, you may be familiar with, ran a HeatSmart Finger Lakes North campaign in Orleans, Genesee, Wayne, and Ontario counties. So Wyoming and Livingston were the only 2 counties in the Finger Lakes region that weren't formally included in a HeatSmart campaign before, although we did accept kind of like overflow interest from like our community partners in those regions during the run of the HeatSmart Monroe campaign. And then the big change you'll see, and why Erica's being so great and kind of helping us make sure we're touching the borders of where the Southern Tier meets the Finger Lakes and which county is which, depending on what map you're looking at, is the Yates and Seneca counties were previously part of the HeatSmart Finger Lakes South campaign, which I'll let her tell you a little bit more about now.
Yeah, so for the past 2.25 years, kind of similarly aligned with the HeatSmart Monroe and FLX North programs, we were covering the counties of Schuyler, Seneca, Yates, and Steuben. So Seneca and Yates, we did a lot of great work with many of you as partners who are on the calls today. And like some of you might be colleagues of those or might have just heard about the program more recently, but we really want to be able to springboard and build off of those really great relationships that we were building on with residents and partners, and be able to do a warm handoff and like a nice clean transition for those folks to interact with the Finger Lakes Hub. And we definitely understand, we do have some partners where, they might be covering Yates or Seneca, but also Schuyler and Steuben, which I'll still be serving. But we just wanted to make sure we had like a good transition and opportunity for you to meet the hub and be able to interact with one another. Anything else on this one, Jenna?
Nope, I think just let's show you your beautiful little map of what the Southern Tier.
I did not draw this. I'm not that artistic. I definitely stole this from NYSERDA. But as you can see with the stars here, the HeatSmart FLX South is going to be continuing to some iteration. So I'm now a clean energy advisor with the new Southern Tier Hub. The Climate Solutions Accelerator, who's Jenna and the team are part of for the Finger Lakes Hub, is basically the key nonprofit in charge of that region. So the key nonprofit in charge of the Southern Tier region is currently Cornell Carver Extension of Tompkins. So we're essentially, I'm essentially subcontracting under them to continue my work in Steuben and Schuyler. So I'm excited to still continue with partners who are serving those counties. And I always like to say hello to other ones in Yates and Seneca. So very excited to keep building on this. I think that about wraps it up for this slide. But yeah, just excited to continue the work that we started upon. So where are we at with this transition? I know Jenna mentioned earlier, the HeatSmart FLX South program has been interacting with, Jenna and her team with the Finger Lakes Hub to do like a cleaner transition with Seneca and Yates. So far we've achieved, there's a lot of interesting utility company combinations, especially in the Yates community, and might be similar in some of the other communities in the hub. So we really wanted to chat with them about like, what are the major utilities, NYSEG, RG&E, what are some of the municipal electric examples such as Penyon Municipal, to make sure that the nuances are understood and different programs and opportunities for those residents that they're connecting with. We also made sure we were going through kind of our enrollees with the HeatSmart FLX South program. And for those who maybe they were like interested and we had initial conversation, but we hadn't really gotten to the point where they got connected to a program contractor. So we did connect most of those folks over to the hub because they're kind of still at square one. So it's an easy transition. We also, a few weeks ago, had Jenna come to our vetted program contractor session. So she did a similar presentation for them for awareness. And then today's presentation, which is connecting partners like yourselves to the hub. So what's up on the horizon with transition? Lots of things, but the main ones coming up are figuring out for those folks who have been working with HeatSmart FLX South for some time, but who may not have finished with their energy goals. We're working on the transition of connecting those folks to the Finger Lakes Hub. And also there's boundless outreach opportunities, especially in Seneca, thanks Abe, that we'll be sharing with them to take advantage of.
Can I kick it back to you, Brett, to talk a little bit more about your role and what we're looking to build with partners?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, kind of like we mentioned before, me and Brianna are accepting referrals. We've been taking energy advisor calls since like last week of December. I think we've already had about 40 people through the program, so definitely a good start. And like I said, there's a lot of interest in Seneca and Yates County, a lot of people from there so far. So yeah, anyone interested in energy audits, or if they're like, hey, I'd like to get a heat pump, but I don't really know where to start, or I need to improve my house's insulation, but I don't know what I qualify for, you can send them to our website, heatsmartflx.org, and they can schedule an appointment with us. Or, I think our emails can be shared out as well, or you could email Erica and ask for contact info, and we could get in contact with that person. But yeah, and like I said, definitely open to more tabling and presentation opportunities, as the weather gets warmer and we can get out and see more people face to face. So.
Yeah, and Brett, can you just talk about a little bit the approach that you've taken to maybe folks who have different needs or levels of like different technological or other competencies, and kind of how you've navigated that? I'm thinking specifically like sending out like paper applications and other ways to get over that barrier.
Yeah, we will do everything with the applications for like Empower and Comfort Home. If people don't have an email access, or or just have like a landline, we can mail out applications directly to them, and supply the return envelopes so they can mail everything to NYSERDA or directly to the contractor. Yeah, I think if that's what you were getting at.
Yeah, we also have a connection to the language line, so we can serve people who are deaf of hard of hearing with video sign language calls. We also have a bunch of different like languages that we can do live translations for energy advisement calls if that's a need of anyone in your community. But yeah, we're working, and we hope that you'll tell us where we can improve and challenge us to be better, to make sure that our presentations, our print materials, our actual energy advisement calls themselves are as accessible as possible, especially in places where like the digital divide is a very real thing, and not everybody can just click open their computer and be connected to the entire World Wide Web. So anything we can do to, especially I know there's a ton of libraries on the call. Yes, there we go. Oh my gosh. Anything we can do to make sure that we're actually really challenging ourselves to do the best we can in terms of equitable delivery service in these counties is something we're definitely looking for.
And that's one of the things I know Jen touched on a bit earlier with like being equitable, is we did have like a partner sometime before the hubs kind of came online, but they knew it was coming, where they were worried about like, we're a fringe county in the hub region. And, in past, just the general, besides the HeatSmart, we usually get missed with programs. And so when I talked to Jenna, she's like, oh, we're already on that. As she mentioned, they picked up Wyoming and Livingston County, which are kind of on the fringe of the Finger Lakes Hub. So I feel very confident that their team will be taking really good care of Seneca and Yates, as well as the other communities in that region.
Yeah, I'm hoping the fact that there are so many different hubs and we're all touching each other means that there really won't be a fringe as much anymore, because nobody
Exactly.
Everybody has someone who is there for them, hopefully.
And then we have these resources again. We will be sending out probably the next week or two. Once we get the recording situated, we'll send out copies of the recordings if you need to re-review or want to share with a teammate who might have missed the opportunity. These are some of the links. We had mentioned Kathy Hochul's address about the 52 million of awarded funds for the Clean Energy Hubs. So we have the article there. We also have NYSERDA's link for the Clean Energy Hubs. If maybe you're with the USDA and you're communicating with the the USDA program over in the capital region or the North Country, you can help connect them to their point people. We also have the Finger Lakes Hubs website, as well as the HeatSmart FLX South programs, and also the current map of communities labeled as disadvantaged that will be being built upon and updated.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. Now I think we're ready for kind of the fellowship and peer learning section of this presentation, where I know y'all have been thinking and how we can be most helpful to you, and how you can be most helpful to our clients, which I'm sure you already are. So if you have any questions for us, thoughts of how we can get together, I also think we might be reaching out through a follow-up email and would really like to learn kind of the wraparound services, or maybe some more details about what you offer to your own constituents, just so that we can make sure that our wraparound services really are two-directional, that if we for some reason are the first folks getting our clients through the door and they mention a need that we know that you guys specialize in, that we can go ahead and pass that referral back through to you to make sure we're meeting more than one need of the community.
Awesome.